Reading with your kids.
Hey, so great to see you. Come on in. Hi, my name is Jed Lee, and this is the Reading with Your Kids podcast. We are coming to you from the beautiful neighborhood of Reedville in the southwest corner of Boston, Massachusetts. Please be sure to subscribe to the show on the iHeartRadio app, on Spotify, on Stitcher Radio, on Google Podcasts, Himalaya, Apple Podcasts, wherever you find your podcast. Our guest today is Pam C Rice. Pam is back to celebrate her brand new book, Dana's Purple Discovery. Before we invite Pam in, we want to let you know that this episode of the podcast is sponsored in part by Vooks, V-O-O-K-S, Vooks, Vooks.com. Vooks combines the love, trust, and safety of children's books with the convenience of online streaming for a whole new way to experience stories with their growing library of animated storybooks that both kids and parents will love. By adding movement, sound, and narration to existing books, Vooks brings stories to life. They really are alive. It's amazing. Now, this encourages the love of reading while promoting literacy, imagination, and focus for children ages 2 to 8 years old. With Vooks, children can learn, laugh, and let their imagination soar, while parents can feel good about letting their little ones enjoy some quality, guilt-free screen time. Right now, Vooks is offering a free 1-year subscription to every single teacher and homeschooling parent. What an amazing gift! They also offer some free resources to go along with some of their most beloved titles. This really is an incredible opportunity. Whether you're a teacher, a parent, a grandparent, imagine what a great gift this would be if you were a grandparent or an uncle or godparent or just a loving friend. What a great gift this would be to give to any family. Learn more about it by going to Vooks.com. That's VOOKS.com, Vooks.com. This episode of the podcast is also brought to you by Hawkeyes, the fantastic book by JLW. You may know JLW as our former guest, Jennifer Ramirez. Hawkeyes is an amazing book. It's been named among the best in family-friendly media products and services by the Mom's Choice Awards. That's a pretty big deal. You know, one of the things we've talked about a lot here on the podcast is how important it is to help our kids understand that there are different ways to look at life. There are different ways to look at the same thing. That people come and have different perspectives. And Hawkeyes is a book that just does an amazing job of helping children look at the big picture of life, especially from a more positive perspective. And here's the thing. It also helps adults, too. Hawkeyes, it's a super fun and inspiring book by our friend JLW, also known as Jennifer Ramirez. And you also want to check out her book, A Buck and a Puck. Both are available on Amazon. Joining us right now from the great state of Illinois, she is the author of so many wonderful, wonderful books. She's also the illustrator of those wonderful books. Today we're talking about a brand new book called Dana's Purple Discovery. Please welcome back to the show our friend Pam C Rice. Pam, how are you?
I'm good, Jed. How are you today?
Wonderful. Love talking to old friends, guests who've been on the show before, guests that our listeners absolutely love to hear from, and our listeners absolutely love to hear from you. And I know that they are excited to learn all about Dana's Purple Discovery.
Yeah. Well, Dana's Purple Discovery actually came from an experience I had many, many years ago. I was in Jamaica, and we were walking along the beach, and I saw this great starfish. And I said, wow, how cool is this? So I picked it up and said, I'm going to take this back with me. This will look nice sitting on the shelf. And so that's how, that's where I got the idea for the book. Mm-hmm. And so when I got back to my hotel room, I noticed that there was some movement in the bag. And, so I decided not just to stick my hand in the bag, but to, poke at the bag and kind of flip it over without getting too close to it. And out came the starfish. It was moving. And I didn't know this could happen. So, I was almost terrified, because all the little arms and stuff is squiggling around. And so that's where I came up with the idea of doing this story. I did embellish it a bit, but in my research about starfish, I did find out that there are over 40 species of different starfish.
Wow.
All different colors, and there's some that have as many as 40 arms.
Whoa.
Yeah. It's like, okay, yeah, I can take this someplace, we can make something out of this.
Yeah. Well, this is one of the things that's so wonderful about children's books is that it really does introduce kids in a real fun way to lots of facts. It also introduces adults to a lot of information, a lot of facts that I certainly didn't have any idea that there were starfish with all those arms and all those different types of starfish.
Sure, and they're really a strange species because first of all, they're not fish.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there's something else, and so they have no blood. They've got eyes on the end of each of their tentacles. So if there are 40 tentacles, then there are 40 eyes.
Wow.
And yeah, so it makes a nice little story, and the graphics and the illustrations are fun to do, and that it just kind of pulls together at the end with the facts about the starfish.
Yeah.
And that really adds another element to this book that I think people will be real interested in reading about.
Yeah. I love, you have a very unique style. Your illustrations are really beautiful and they're very unique. Is there a name? Because I don't know. I don't know anything about illustration other than the fact that there's some that I really like to look at. They're really pretty to me.
Yes.
Do you have, is your style, is there a particular name for your style?
No, there isn't. But one of the things that I've been working on, and every illustrator at some point, has a style that most people could look at and tell who's illustrated. Mm-hmm. And so I just wanted to really be identifiable right off the bat. And so I started using a lot of textures and colors and incorporating positive and negative shapes into the illustrations so that they're simplified, but you get it. Mm-hmm. There's sometimes you can use positive and negative shapes to the point where you don't have to be so literal about it. You can keep it real simple. And that's one of the things I've always tried to work on. And then the colors that I use are kind of muted, and a lot of people have made comments about the colors or how the hues and the colors are kind of real soothing and they're not bright and garish, mm-hmm. but just really nice to look at. And in fact, I've had a couple of people ask for illustrations of the spreads, and I've actually taken some of the spreads and made large poster prints.
Oh, wonderful.
And, sent those out because I try to create it so that each spread is a canvas. It's, mm-hmm. It's an illustration. It makes a nice, picture for looking at, for a wall framing.
Yeah. That is one of the things that I was kind of grasping for. Your illustrations are very soothing. And, I'm thinking that adds, and every book is different. And I love bright colors, but there are certain times when you want those bright colors and you want to be very animated and over the top and loud with your kids. Mm-hmm. And there are other times when you want to just kind of chill and sit down and relax. And Dana's Purple Discovery sounds like that perfect. It sounds like a perfect book to read with your kids at the beach and, or at home in front of a fire, just kind of relaxing and growing closer together.
Yeah. In fact, there's another book, and you mentioned it earlier, that I've been working on. It eventually goes to another place, and it's almost like an adventure land, a river view or an amusement park kind of thing. And that, at that point, I bring out these loud colors and things. And I think that when using colors, I try to, make it appropriate. It has to be a scene that's appropriate for the colors to me, if you got what I'm saying.
Yeah.
It's, if we're talking about some soothing and relaxing atmosphere, then the colors reflect that. And if it's an amusement park, gaiety and sound and noise and music and food, then the colors kind of reflect that as well. Mm-hmm. So, I take a lot of these things into context and there's a reason for everything that I try to do. It's just that it keeps it exciting. I think it keeps the reader engaged. Especially when we're flowing through the story and the story is changing from spread to spread, then the colors kind of reflect that as well. So I do take a lot of my books are heavy on the artistic side, the graphic side, probably even more so than some of the writing. But the stories, a lot of the stories, as I mentioned to you in the past, come from a lot of experiences that I remember as a child.
Yeah.
And so, yeah.
One of the things about your illustrations, and I was talking to another author illustrator about this not too long ago. He has a very different style than you. And, but both of your illustrations, I'm looking at the cover art for Dana's Purple Discovery, and it's a fairly simple scene. There's Dana, a beautiful young girl. There's the purple starfish, and there's a shell on a beach. So there's not much there. The other illustrator was talking about he had his cover art. It was just so busy with so many different characters and whatnot. But the thing that both of your illustrations have is that there's a lot to look at. As I'm looking at Dana here, there's a lot going on with her. The expression, what she's touching. And I'm just imagining a family can sit and just look at the illustration for 5-10 minutes and talk about the different things that the people that are, snuggled up together reading the book are seeing. And one of the great things about sharing those experiences is that everybody's seeing something different.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One of the things you mentioned earlier was this idea of contrasting shapes, negative and positive shapes. I'm not quite sure what that is. Can you explain to me what's a negative shape, what's a positive shape?
In some of my books, what I try to do is kind of keeping it simple. If I'm talking about one subject, if I put the focus on one element, then I want that element to stand out. So I try to not get too complicated with it. That spread, what I try to do is focus on the shape. So the shape may be I may only use one or two colors. So I put the focus on the shape, and then I add another shape behind it, and almost let the item or the element or the graphic that I'm talking about, if it's a cat, stand out in almost like a negative shape or a positive shape, so that there's something going on there. But then you kind of look twice and you look once and you see something, and you look a second time and you see something else. It's almost like a visual optical illusion. That's to add some visual interests as well. But I had a friend make a comment on one of the books. I send him books for his grandkids a lot, and he reads to them, and they try to read themselves. And so he told me, he said, after they fell asleep and I picked up a few of the books and I started reading them myself. He said sometimes I pick up on things that the two of us didn't pick up together.
Mm-hmm.
So he's like he's getting involved after the fact, after he's read with them for a while, then he comes back and he reads the book and he sees some things that he's kind of picked out, and he challenges them to find them the next time he reads to them. And so I thought that was kind of interesting because I really never thought of it that way.
Mm-hmm.
But it's nice, nice when, I hear adults telling me the response that they get from the kids when they're reading together.
Sure.
I had, another comment, on one of the books, Ollie's Bubblegum Spaceship. And so I think this guy was reading to his nephew, and he said, I forgot about how when I used to get penny bubblegum, that there were actually comic strips inside. The gum was actually wrapped in comic strips.
Uh-huh.
And there was always a prize an offering on the bubblegum strip. And that sometimes I would send a quarter and put it in an envelope and send it off and wait for this fabulous prize to come back. And a lot of times I would be disappointed, and other times I wasn't. But he was actually letting his nephew know that there was a time when these such things happened and they were available, and he was engaged as well. And I thought that was fun. And I like to hear those kind of responses of feedback where they're sharing, where the nephew was getting experiences from his uncle and sharing those experiences that his uncle had as a child. So those are always, the comments I get are always interesting, and I always save them too because it does make a difference.
Absolutely.
It does make a difference.
Absolutely. Absolutely. What are some of the unexpected challenges that you've encountered during your career as a writer?
I think that some of the challenges that I have are, when writing a story, trying to make sure that it starts out that I paint the picture first, the setting, that there's stages set so that both readers can get a good idea of what is actually happening. So I try to write it that way. It's illustrated, but I still try to embellish it so that they get a little bit more out of it.
Mm-hmm.
And then I try to make sure that there's a decent arc. In other words, it's like taking a roller coaster up,
Yep.
And there's this anticipation. And then getting to the top of that roller coaster. And that's the challenge, is getting to the top and then winding down and then taking it someplace where it's going to be interesting or taking that road back home. And so that's the challenge to me, is to try to make it interesting enough so that the story doesn't stay flat on a flat plane, that it does have a peak, and that it eventually goes somewhere very pleasant.
Yeah.
I like that. Yeah. And that's the challenge, but it's a good challenge. I mean, cause it keeps me being creative. That's for sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think that's so important. You don't want to just get into drudgery of cranking out books as if you're a machine. It's a creative process, and your books are really works of art, both in the story and the illustrations, and that takes a lot of work. But I guess it also, it keeps your imagination active. That must be a great joy to you.
It is, because while I do remember certain situations and events that happened as a child, and they were good situations, it's an opportunity to add those extra elements of interest, by taking it to the next level of things that you can see might have happened if the situations if certain things were a little different. And, so yeah, it is always a creative challenge. And as you said, it's a good one. It keeps me going. That's why there's so many books, and I still have quite a few, in me. And one day, like I may just think of something or remember something, and I go, yeah, I remember that. I remember that situation. I remember that event.
Yeah.
And, then that's when the story starts.
That's awesome. You mentioned that you have a number of books in you already. You've already written a number of books. I know this is unfair to ask you, so I apologize. And if you don't have an answer, that's okay. But it's kind of like asking you who's your favorite child. But do you have out of all the books that you've created, do you have a favorite?
Yeah, that's a challenge. I think that because a lot of the books come from real situations. I think that a whistle watch at Uncle Willie's house, because it brings back memories of my Uncle Willie, who used to come up from the South when we were like 8 and 9 years old. And the things that, used to go on, and, things he used to say and do, and the way the story flows. I don't like to give away too much of the story, but anyway, he used to come up every summer, and one summer he just didn't come up, and we wondered what happened, but we eventually went to the South. He had passed away. Went south and to his house. He had a little shotgun house in the woods. But the main thing that stood out in his house was a upright piano. And he never believed in banks, so he always hid his money all around the house. And so, my mother and grandmother and my sister, we were there. And my sister was the whistle watcher at the back door, and I was the whistle watcher at the front door, because we had neighbors, and neighbors were nosy. When you start digging through the walls and the floors, and you would make noise, and they would always come by, and they want to sit down and they want to chit chat. Well, we weren't there for that. So the whole thing comes that we would the whistle watch, as we would whistle when we saw people coming or people walking or any sign of movement. We were to whistle. And my sister would get upset because nobody was coming past the back door. Well, that was intentional. And I'm going to jump back to the beginning of the story when Uncle Willie used to come up. Every summer he taught me how to whistle.
Yeah.
And so that was where I got my whistling talents from.
You know, your stories are, I think it introduces kids and reminds parents of a simpler time, but also reminds parents and kids of what's really important in life, and that's the relationships that we have with each other.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I think
and that's important. It really is, Jed. You know, it's, and it doesn't have to be anything big or elaborate. Just moments.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You know, you can take small moments and make something out of it.
Yeah.
And, small moments can really stand out and make a pleasant story.
Yes.
That kids enjoyed listening to.
Yep. Yeah, and I think that we as adults, we forget, because kids are exposed to so many things and so many bells and whistles and bright flashing lights, we think that everything in their life has to be like that. And I don't know about you. I have a friend who's in a band and it's a it's a very successful band. And he invited me out to the show, and the concert opened with just him and a guitar and just a couple lights, and it was really, really, really sweet and enjoyable. And then when the band came out and got back together, I mean, there was lights, there was video screens, there was the drums spinning in the air, and that was impressive. But about 3 songs into that, I'm like, I just want the light and the guitar back. This is too much for me.
Yeah. And there's nothing wrong with that. Simplicity.
Uh-huh.
Just to tone it down sometimes, and it's good. I think it's good in these days, especially now, to have something, when parents are reading to children, something that's calming, something that's almost like something that calms you down, almost meditative, and but memorable.
Yeah. When I'm experiencing your books, Pam, it's going to sound kind of goofy, but it kind of feels like a hug. And when you're sitting and reading with your kids and you're reading Dana's Purple Discovery, my kids aren't 5 and 6 anymore. They're 25 and 26. But I mean, reading these books would, just feel, that embrace, that here we are together and we're embraced, talking about this memorable moment, enjoying the subtle pictures and colors of the illustrations. And so I really want to thank you for creating these moments that families can share.
Well, thank you. And it's fun, and it's something I'll just continue to do, I'm sure.
Yeah. Well, remind everybody where they can find you online and learn all about those books that we referred to.
Okay. I can be found at www.pamricedesign.com and also on Facebook at Kids Books, Kids Shelf Books.
Excellent. Excellent. Well, we've had...
It's a tongue twister.
It is. We've had such a great time speaking to our friend, the author of Dana's Purple Discovery, Pam C. Rice. Pam, thanks so much for being back with us today.
My pleasure.
Please be sure to join us for the next edition of the Reading with Your Kids podcast. Our guest will be Sarah Devine. She'll be here to celebrate her beautiful picture book, Jared's Last Carrot. That's the next edition of the Reading with Your Kids podcast. If you are the author of a great children's book, you may be incredibly happy that the book is here, that you have it in your hands, that your friends and family have read it and they love it and they think the world should have this book. And you agree. And we agree. But how does that happen? Well, you need to get out there and market it. And that is a problem because you're an author. You never studied marketing. You don't know anything about it. It's so frustrating. Well, we want to help you out. The Reading with Your Kids podcast has a super program that can help your book stand out amongst the crowd of hundreds and thousands of books that are published every single month. Check it out. If our evaluators think that your book is worthy of 4 or 5 out of 5 stars, it becomes a Reading with Your Kids certified great read. And with that status comes a number of fantastic tools that will help your book really stand out. It will help families know that your book is worthy of their consideration. You can check it out today. Go to our website, readingwithyourkids.com. Click on the Author Services button at the top of the page, and you'll find out all about it. We want to thank the folks who made today's show so very wonderful. Of course, we want to thank our guest, Pam C Rice. Be sure to check out Dana's Purple Discovery. We also want to thank the author of Hawkeyes and A Buck and a Puck, JLW. Be sure to check out those 2 wonderful books on Amazon. And, of course, we want to thank our friends at Vooks, Vooks.com, Vooks, Vooks.com. We love this streaming service. We also love the fact that they are offering teachers and homeschooling parents a free 1-year subscription. So check it out today, Vooks.com. I want to thank my amazing producer, Fatima Khan, for all that she does for the show. I want to thank my beautiful wife for all the support that she gives me. I want to thank you. Thank you so much for joining us today. Thank you so much for making the world a better place by reading with your kids. I'll be looking for you in the next edition of the Reading with Your Kids podcast.